Okay, so in the Fifth Witness, my book featuring Mickey Haller, towards the end, he's gone through a pretty traumatic case, and he thinks things are going his way, and he's cruising in the back of the Lincoln Town Car, and they have your latest album on, and they're listening to Judgment Day, and that's the song that we're offering people for a download, so it would be cross purposes of book and music, which is, I think, a rarity in both our businesses. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the music, that song. So this album to me is interesting because of the choices you've made, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about why you picked Judgment Day and what the song might mean to you.
Well, I mean, it's a long story, but I'll try and keep it short, because when we met, I was in the studio ostensibly to go to work with J.J. Cale to make a kind of follow-up record on something we'd done before as a collaboration, and he took sick quite quickly, and it left me with studio time and nothing to do, and I fell into covering songs that had been very influential and inspirational in my childhood. So things just started coming up to the surface that I hadn't thought about in years, and all across the board, not just R&B and blues, but was a couple of Fats Waller songs came up and that I never thought I would perform. But Judgment Day, the song that we're talking about, was a song by Snooky Pryor that was on. I had a very small collection of blues albums, vinyl albums when I was young. I managed to score them from jazz stores in England, and one of them was a kind of compilation of Chicago blues, and there was Billy Boy Arnold was on there, and Snooky Pryor. Billy Boy Arnold had his track on there was I Wish You Would, which the Yardbirds covered. So I mean, it was a historic album for me, and I had always loved Snooky Pryor and that song Judgment Day, and so it just, when this thing happened and being left holding the baby with studio time and a band ready to play, these things just started coming to the surface, and that was an important one for me, because I really wanted to cover the songs in a way that was quite accurate to authentic to the sound as well, and the period and the way they were recorded. So.
Well, when you said you had a vinyl album with this on it, I remember reading in either you told me this or I read it in the book you wrote, that you would go down to a certain jazz store and your process of buying records was whatever they got in from
imports.
So it wouldn't be that you've even heard the song; you would kind of buy it. Well, or would you hear it in the store?
Well, they let us listen in those days. You could go in; there would be a turntable in a booth, and you could take a stack of records in there and listen all day.
I see.
There was no limit. There was no supervision, and so I would buy American imports, and I would listen to them, and I didn't know whether I was buying jazz or calypso and what I ought to say is that it was anyone that had a black character on the cover. It was a black musician. Well, then I'd go and see what that was about, and the merit kind of worked itself out. The order of merit was kind of automatic. I didn't have really a judgment system. It was just my taste, I suppose.
Okay, and so do you think in that sound booth might have been where you first heard the song?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Now I don't know anything about the history of Snooky Pryor. Is someone you've ever met? Did you?
No, I know, but the guy that played harmonica on the track, who was originally with the Thunderbirds. I mean, the Fabulous Thunderbirds. His name is Kim Wilson. He was the leader of that band from Texas, and he knew Snooky very well. So it was interesting he played the harmonica on our track,
right? And
he told stories about Snooky. He said he's still around apparently, and he must be getting on now. But I never met him. No.
Well, that would be cool. He must feel happy that you covered the song.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. But the funny thing was that just to go on that from that day until that was when you came round to the studio. I remember when we met then, and from then on I've just been honouring this commitment to cover everything I can.
Right.
That's what we're doing now. In fact, it's interesting. So I opened the door, and now I can't close the door.
But why is that going on? As you say, it really was serendipity that J.J. Cale took ill.
Yeah.
And this opened this door, but
Yeah.
why is it still open? I mean, are you going back
Because
to
there's
your
a lot.
roots?
Yeah, there's a lot. It's interesting to see what works and what doesn't. So I've been doing Hank Snow songs, and I've been country and still doing ballads. I just did cut the Folks That Live on the Hill, and I mean I don't really care anymore because I think whatever you do, it'll sound like me, whatever I do. So.
Well, when you pick the song, just going back to the song for one more question, what is it that drew you either back then or even now? Is it more the sound, or are the lyrics part of it, of the equation? Or?
Well, with that song, Judgment Day, it was the whole arrangement and the sound of the guitars and that period, I think, of Chicago blues. It was the golden age. I mean, I think it was probably the late 50s, mid 50s when Muddy Waters was recording and Howlin' Wolf, and there was between the 50s and the early 60s, I think some of the greatest records that have ever been made were made, and that was definitely amongst them, really.
Okay. All right, let me just jump now to the written word.
Yeah.
I've had conversations with you, other musicians, Ry Cooder, even Mick Jagger. A lot of you guys do a lot of reading.
Yeah.
And so in my work, music is very important. I have music playing when I'm writing. I try to put music references into the books, which is contradictory because you can't hear what you're reading.
Yeah.
But it works for me in the moments that I'm writing, and I'm just wondering whether there's any correlation or opposite correlation for you. Does reading in any way feed into what you do? What is it that you get out of reading?
Well, I identify with the characters usually. I mean, I'm either reading you or I'm reading Cormac McCarthy, which is funny. And I reread them. And I mean, when I first read your stuff, and I've discovered Hieronymus, I thought I was reading about me. I mean, there's so much about him that's like me, in the curmudgeonliness of it, and his humanity and his vulnerability, which he covers up so well, by being brusque and what have you. But so I think that I use reading as a complete getaway from what I do. I mean, and it doesn't necessarily work in the same way as you use music when you write. When I travel or when I've got a lot of downtime, I'll read because it takes me away from the concern of what I do, which can be pressurized sometimes. If I'm trying to build something or things aren't going well musically, the escape is always a good book, And it's the same with McCarthy. I'll find characters that I can identify in the same way. People, damaged people, all the characters in his books are damaged and illusory. They suffer from mild delusions in the same way that I do. So that's how it works for me. I mean, I've never really gone into reading in a classical sense to try and cover the classics or in an academic way. I've never really. I always
so
look
then
for.
how do you find what you read? People tell you, word of mouth?
It just seems to fall into my lap. I don't think there's a certain amount of serendipity in that, that things get placed there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, often, even if it means that you're in an airport, it could be even the title. The title will do it.
Okay.
But there will be times when I'll read book after book and chuck the book away after 3 pages and think I can't read this.
So, so let's wrap it up here. I don't know if you reveal what you're doing before it's revealed to the world, but do you want to tell
this
us?
Thing?
Yeah, what are you doing here?
Well,
now?
what we did last time was keep cutting tracks. Once that door was open, the stuff was flying out, and we had about 8 tracks left over, which we've refined down to 5 that are very good. So I've been adding to those to make a second album of the same nature. Really, and all they'll do is because there's no pressure on me to put out an album for a year or two. I'll just put this in the can.
In the vault?
Yeah.
And then, okay. I remember you sent me the last one, I think it was from Germany. So do you just find studios wherever you're traveling, or
Yeah, this one will still. But this one's here. The good thing about this one was we just been on the road for about a month. bit more. And by the time we came in here, I mean, we're in such good shape to play. It was like we say, well, what song we will do this? We go out and cut it in 2 takes, and it was really easy. And it's a good idea to do that after you've just done a stretch on the road.
Is that Doyle Bramwell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I recognize him.
Yeah. You met him before? You never met him?
Yeah. Last time we were.
Yeah.
I mean, I think actually at the Hollywood Bowl I met him. So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is great.
Yeah.
Just not for the conversation, but does the road ever end for you? Because I bring this up because I've been telling my publisher I'm slowing down. I don't want to do as many book tours.
Well, it's difficult because when it's good, I don't want it to end, because there isn't anything else I experience in my life apart from the joy of being with my family that gives me that. It's another kind of satisfaction, which I would hate to lose.
Right.
And the thing is, it will probably be inevitable, because some point my faculties will dry up. You know, that's got to happen. So
B.B. King.
Yeah, but I know. Well,
I used to go to B.B. King every year with a friend, because I said this could be the last year. But after about 12 years of doing that,
what is he? 80?
He's in his 80s. Yeah.
So I mean, the thing is, if you stopped, and if I just retired and I was still able to do it, when the time come when those faculties did go, I think, why did I should have?
A lot of regrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit different, because what I love is the writing, and that's not what takes me on the road. You go on the road to do what you love.
Yeah, that's the price.
Yeah.
The traveling is the price, really. Oh. But at the moment, it's very sweet. So.
Well, that's good. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Michael. I'm really glad this.